You're back. Good. Yes, my eyes on the harbor have sent word to that effect. What have you discovered? It doesn't really matter. And I do apologize for the surveillance. In any case, it's a relief to know someone has looked into it. If I may ask, will there be an official investigation? I assume you discovered there is an operation.
The lieutenant is about to interject. Cut him off. This decision should be yours.
If there is an investigation, it will be part of an ongoing operation, subject to confidentiality. I'm sure you understand.
Of course, detectives. In any case, you've held up your end of our arrangement. I trust you with the rest. Now it's my turn. I wouldn't normally break protocol like this, but the situation demands it. If you don't solve this murder, I'm afraid we may have a bloodbath on our hands.
The words bloodbath sound cold in her mouth. They taste of iron and strawberries.
Yes. I'm afraid this strike may descend into a small-scale civil war, with possible consequences for all of Rivershoal West.
Since you are sharing, ma'am, this is also the RCM's worst-case scenario.
Then we're on the same page, as grim as it may be. I have an indirect role to play, I'm sad to say. My employer experienced a momentary lapse of faith in me. In that moment, they elected to deploy a private military contractor as an insurance measure. They called it my security detail. Absolutely not. These mercenaries are muscle, pure and simple. They are meant to intimidate the Union into surrendering.
Who are they, exactly?
Crenell, an Oranese military company. As far as I know, 3 arrived in Martinez. They report to me sporadically, but they do not answer to me. To be frank, our relationship is deteriorating. They wear ceramic armor, have semi-automatic weapons, and years of combat experience. They also have trauma and stressor disorder, and no idea how to conduct themselves in an urban civilian environment.
So, what happened?
The story is, one of them, the Colonel, I don't know his real name, sexually assaulted a local woman while he was drunk and separated from his unit. This allowed some of the more militant Union members to subdue him. He was taken out behind the whirling in rags and lynched. Last Sunday night. Nothing. Mr. Clare refuses to let me into the harbor. I have not been able to discuss this matter with anyone there. The remaining 2 Crenell contractors carry out their orders, for now. It's a smokescreen. In secret, they are conducting an independent military tribunal into the lynching. Once this investigation is concluded, executions will follow.
What is the nature of this so-called investigation?
Whether to execute one, some, or all of the Union militants. They won't. My only hope is that yours provides a single, concrete suspect, before they indiscriminately pick theirs. Simply put, if you don't pin this on someone good, and do it fast, they will identify and execute everyone present at the lynching. This in turn will force the Union to respond.
They would have to project strength and power.
The Debarders have over 2,000 men. It will be 1,000 to 1.
Have you ever seen a hornet invade a beehive, Lieutenant? It's not pretty.
The Serai's giant hornet, the world's 2nd largest insect, can kill 40 honeybees a minute, while a group of 30 can decimate an entire hive of 20,000 bees in less than 4 hours.
These men work in tandem using semi- and fully automatic firearms. Their armor is virtually impenetrable to muzzle-loaded weapons, even yours. Most Union workers don't have guns at all.
The muzzle loaders need to be reloaded after every 1, 2, or in your case, 3 shots. The automatics every 1 or 2 minutes.
As I said, a bloodbath.
It appears you found it, yes. And I'm not happy for you.
It doesn't have to be like this, Lieutenant W. Frater Dubois. One single concrete suspect delivered into civil court, and I may be able to defuse this situation. Not much. Their public resume is relatively good, as far as private military contractors go. I believe they were once called Downwell.
Down a deep, black well.
They boast a long list of clients. Saint-Baptiste, Welchman Lorenz, Eendracht. A warning sign, however. The operations concerned all take place in third or fourth world countries. Guarding facilities, escort missions and such.
Meaning they're used to operating in war zones.
Yes. All the good conflict corridors, Supramundi, Yesut, the Seminese Islands, countries that don't have a good record reporting atrocious military conduct on their soil. Sadly, no. Before this happened, I had little interest in them. Now that I do, I don't have the resources. If you still have access to the ICP's database, you could run a better background check than I ever could. It may take some time, though.
The International Collaboration Police, ICP, is charged with coordinating law enforcement activities in complex, multinational investigations. Their database is the single largest source of information in the world.
Do you know a lot about the inner workings of the RCM and the ICP, man?
In my line of work, it pays to do your research. I was prepared to deal with the RCM. I did not think I'd be dealing with a group like Crenel. I have. And they will. However, these orders take time to reach what is basically a rogue unit out in the field here. Until they do, it's all on us.
She's being truthful. She is pressing them as hard as she can.
Or he didn't. This is information passed on to me from some teenagers loitering around the canal. I cannot testify by it. That the man was killed because he assaulted a local woman.
This does not come as news to us, but still. To your knowledge, where did this assault take place?
Last Sunday night, at the Whirling in Rags, the hostel by the gates. Either way, he's alleged to have sexually assaulted a woman. Sometime later, a group of dock workers got their hands on him. Good. Then you've made progress. It's imperative that you move fast. The tribunal will not be patient. If you mean did I see him alive, yes. But I did not know him. Lely, his service name, a nom de guerre most likely. He wouldn't divulge his full name. Only one of them did. A bad sign if there ever was one. One is a man, Corty, they call him, a nickname as well. The other a woman, Phyllis DePaul. Corty is the gunner, I believe. DePaul is a radio operator.
What would you say was his eye color, the deceased's?
She closes her eyes, trying to picture the man's face, then shakes her head.
I can't remember.
The lieutenant was testing her, asking a small detail first to see if she knew him better than she let on. She passed.
That's all right, man. Anything else? Nationality? What would you say was his age?
He was 40. Or 50. It's hard to say which. He had a combat injury on his lower jaw. It made it difficult to estimate his age, or gauge his facial expressions.
This matches the dental reconstruction we saw on the body, and Klassier also mentioned it, I believe. What else? Nationality? Accent?
He was, Occidental, I think. Light brown hair, a mixed accent, Oranese, or Messinian, maybe. His injury gave him an accent all his own. In a way, it was humanizing. He had to learn to speak through it. Through the injury. That's all I know, I guess. I only met him once. They've gone to ground, as it were. I don't recommend seeking them out. They don't have the same respect for the Revachol citizens' militia as I do.
Vigilantes. You're a professional officer of the only legitimate authority in Revachol.
Somehow, I doubt that lecturing them on the legitimate use of force will persuade them to stand down. You're likely to run into them eventually. When that happens, I'll be in a better position to mediate if I don't appear involved.
One is obviously the scab leader at the harbor gates. The one chanting the idiotic slogans. He's barely maintaining his disguise. The other has a vantage point in a building south of the roundabout. They were keeping tabs on you while you were canvassing the lorry drivers.
That may be so. I still hope you heed my advice. There's no need to kick the hornet's nest.
For all your talk of averting this catastrophe, the situation at the gate is a powder keg. Does this not bother you?
Of course it bothers me, Lieutenant. But my hands are tied. How would my employer react if it appeared I were intervening on behalf of the Union?
Your concern may be appearances. Ours is keeping the peace.
That would afford a good vantage point. In any case, it's practically inaccessible.
Where is your radio for contacting them, if I may ask? Do you have an earpiece?
Heavens no. I'm not an undercover agent. There's a shortwave at the ship's wheel. I hope I can answer it better. Until the executions start? Truthfully, I don't know. It depends on their progress identifying the members of the lynch mob, and their impatience.
They don't report their progress to you?
Not on this matter. I'm afraid they consider this a personal initiative.
5 days, not more. Maybe sooner.
It's a matter of days, not weeks. I am sorry to have been the bearer of bad news. If there is anything else I can help you with, of course.
For about half a minute, in silence.
It was taken with a trigate not long ago. This is the man's upper body.
Her mouth is relaxed. The accordion lines near her mouth.
Sorry. I was trying to see if I can read the web of interdependencies between these points. The stars. I can't. But that's how you read this story. The points themselves don't have letters, numbers, anything. Their size, location on the body, and distance from each other tells you what they represent. Port cities. On the oceans. This is an Oronese map of the waterways, a sailor's tattoo worn by wayfarers of the Delorian century. As early as 300 years ago, the sailors would mark their bodies to map their travels. Quite a few. Vredefort, the Oronese capital, traditionally stands on the right shoulder.
What next?
Then he made his way to the Pretto Grande, through what I think must be the Stutz Canal, an artificial channel through the Occident. From the Pretto, he sailed to the Insulindic Ocean, first the Semnes Islands, then this. Revachol. Those are the two constants. Vredefort on the shoulder, and Revachol in the heart. They started the tradition of these maps right after the discovery of Insulinde, at the dawn of the Interinsulary Age.
The old world passing by, and the new world already here.
You said you can't read it.
I can't. This man was no sailor, and these are no ports. I can understand geographic fragments, but not their meaning.
Somewhere in an office lit by a single green desk lamp, Captain Ptolemaeus Price, 58, bald and bespectacled, is writing in a ledger on his desk. Rows and rows of days and weeks, laconic remarks in a single column. Patrol, case, vacation, injured. In Martinez looking into Krenel, he writes in one. Then the man puts down his pen and rubs his temples with both hands. Outside, there is a siren. Distant gunshots on the streets of the Jamrock Quarter.
That makes sense to me. We have no more use for a map of the waterways, just like we don't need sailors the way we used to. This is what the custom would morph into on the Occident. Mercenary tattoos.
For all the boys looking for adventure, a blood spatter on the seas.
The sailor's soul would use it to fly back home if they should die abroad.
Where is he now?
That is precisely what the sailors feared when they drew these maps. A fear of drowning within one's own corpse. His platoon members? The other contractors, though I do not suggest you go and show them that picture. This man was their friend and comrade. I am relieved you think so. Is there anything else I can help you with? You're back. Good. Oh. A takeover. If they're taking it...
Green livery, changing into red, blot by blot, like a cancer of the blood, metastasizing.
Then we're talking about a war. Evrart needs to let me into the harbor at once. We need to talk about this. They most certainly are not. Crenell has 1,000 men on their payroll. The next batch will be a platoon of 20 men and a gunship.
I've seen the Union's forces. They are better organized than these mercenaries. They also have the support of the people of Revachol West. It will take more than Crenell to wipe them out. Wild Pines will need to send more and better equipped men. Make no mistake, ma'am. I am sure you have the money. The question is, how many years and how many lives are you willing to sacrifice?
What do you suggest I do? Of course. Your job is to clean up after them. And it looks like there will be a lot of cleaning to be done in the near future. What will I do?
Her arms fall to her sides. Her spine relaxes.
Did I ever tell you how they discovered this Isola? During our reality lowdown? It may be the only break we've ever caught as a species. The last one for 400 years. The nations who colonized this Isola called theirs Muindi, the world. It was all they knew, all they thought would be. That there would be something more was a gamble, akin to another world, or life after death. The Pale was thought to be impregnable, perpetual. Irene la Navigateur, the Queen of Suren, sent 8 expeditions, one after the other, into the mass at the edge of the world. 5 of the crews did not return. 2 did, but had lost their minds. It was anything but normal. There was no precedent. People thought she was punishing the admirals, or had gone mad, or both. Until after years of trial and error, and the development of a strict psychological regime imitating the creation process of poetry.
Called Volta Doma, or Return from the Sea.
The 8th expedition returned sane and intact. They told of a new continent of matter. They told the Queen and her counselor, Dolores Day, that the Pale had begun to condense, day after day, hour after hour, minute after minute, slowly raining down until it formed a vast ocean.
The air is cold and scented with petrichor.
The phenomenon has never again been encountered. For a time, the crew thought they were experiencing a hallucination. The mass hand proclaimed, "Lancielinde, Lancielinde," the signal to wake up, but they could not. They were sane and conscious, as islands began to appear on the horizon. There are 78,000 uninhabited islands in the Insulindian archipelago, officer. The freckled face of God.
You've thought it 1,000,000 times.
A total shift in human comprehension of reality. On the 2nd day, a great skua was shot down above the flagship Lizargique. The bird was preserved and brought back, along with pollen. 4 years later, the Queen's counselor was proclaimed Her Innocence Dolores Day, the elected world spirit. The age of humanism, internationalism, and parliamentary rule followed. We were high. On Caillou, the Pebble, the largest of the fertile, uninhabited islands of the northeast Insulindian archipelago. 4 centuries and 2 revolutions later, the first living, autonomous organism. Proof of reality. It's the symbol of Insulinde, detective. The coat of arms of the suzerain and the wings on the crest of the commune. In your defense, it is a nasty creature who plucks food from the throats of lesser birds. Yet much like Revachol, it is also magnificent and rare. Imagine the suzerain of seagulls.
There was a sting in your heart at the mention before, when she said its name.
The nations of Mundi proceeded to discover 5 more Isolae. Or they discovered us. All in the rush of the great inter-Islary reconnection. But these others weren't uninhabited. We had to kill people there. Wipe out indigenous populations. Gunboat economies. Or they came to do the same for us. Or had done to each other. But here, there was no one but the skua, the Liliat Saya, and the Blood Beach, and the River Esperance. It was the new world. The Mondials used it to amass the greatest concentration of wealth mankind has ever seen. Revachol, the suzerain, revolution, poverty, and the mercurial rise of capitalism. It is. Soon it will be spring and everything will blossom.
The gangs will run wild, jacking motor carriages, ferrying amphetamines through Coal City. Spring is tough in Revachol.
I will surrender Terminal B to the Union.
She puts her hand in the rain. She's silent for a second.
We will see.
It is well within her authority. It's been clear for some time that this woman is more than she lets on.
Ma'am, this may well unravel property law this side of the river. If that occurs, we may never see the end of this kind of confrontation. The next time there will be 2 strikes, then 4, then 100.
What happens will happen. The age of capital has only begun. I will talk to my employers in person. We will amputate and cauterize Martinez. If you handle the situation on the ground. Yes, Mr. Clare has a 2-month head start. I can't let it grow any bigger. And I've exhausted all my options from here.
There are no employers. She's a member of the board. Probably a partner.
You are the citizens' militia. There are no superiors.
You're wrong, Detective. And next time, you should confer with those superiors before you go setting events in motion.
Despite his words, he's not really sure whether to be annoyed with you or not. Events are already in motion. Whether your actions accelerated or momentarily retarded their progress, even the lieutenant cannot really say.
I have not deceived you. I told you exactly who I was. Rejoice Layton. Keep the peace, and I will keep my end of the bargain.
How far along is Cronell's investigation?
A confrontation is imminent. They have followed in your footsteps. As your investigation reaches a climax, so does theirs. They are your shadow. Arm yourselves. Armor yourselves. Protect their targets. Violence may be unavoidable, but we can limit the casualties. Soon. I do not know precisely. They have cut off all communication, you see. They know I've been feeding you information. One last thing, Lieutenant Dubois. I've given the matter much thought and come to this conclusion. You're not an amnesiac. You're insane. I know, because I, too, am insane. I just hide my illness better. And I'm rich. No, Detective. No one's as insane as you.
Don't worry, Madame. I am very sane.
I'm overexposed, baby. My travels take me through the Pale dozens of times a year. I've got the longing. And I've got it bad.
She would die to return to it. The Pale. The past. Anything one can return to.
The same strict psychological regimen the 8th Admiral developed when he crossed the Pale and discovered this Isola. The Volta do Mar. It's used by inter-Islary travelers and other troubled souls, even to this day.
You could use a little of it yourself.
Watch out for yourselves. They will strike soon.
The lieutenant watches her boat grow smaller on the bay. Its white sails fluttering, with worry in his eyes. He does not know if it was the right thing to do, but he doesn't say anything. You wonder what Everard has to say about this. Slowly, the sails turn grey-blue as more oxygen gets between you.
Shame on you!
Hell no. I'm just an honest scab. I won't have talk like that around here. You understand?
It just has to be said. That was not a convincing line.
Fucking loincloth.
Loincloth? Now you see, that's not really what a scab would say, is it? Better not to press the issue further, sire. He seems tense. The man's breathing steadies.
Hola, wandering man. How can I help you?
So, the ship has sailed. Did you see it? I know you did. Tell me, what did it look like as it grew smaller and smaller when that mainsail dropped behind the horizon? Did it look like a germ? Did it look like a piece of bacteria?
You get a sinking feeling.
You wanted us to relay all this information to her.
That this is a takeover? That I want a war? God, I hope you also told her about the drug trade. They absolutely hate getting their hands dirty with that. You can kill 1 million people, but if you do something the police doesn't like, well, then you're out of the yacht club. Goodbye, you inhuman fuck. Harry, I bugged her cabin. I bugged her whole boat. I had cameras surveying her boat. Hell, I even wanted to bug that thermal cap. But my boys advised against it.
They must have done it while Joyce was busy questioning the locals.
Not me personally. I had guys recording and processing this information for me. Hell no! They'd fuck it up. They can't do anything right. I mean my real boys. My special task force boys.
Where are these boys?
They sure as hell aren't hanging out in the open with beers in their hands for the cops to question. They're pros, Mr. Kitsuragi. No, Harry. What we have is real. We're working men. This here is real. Harry. I can't see into the future. We are all playing by ear on this planet. I had no idea she'd react so strongly. I did. I knew the negotiations would go better with police officers telling her horror stories from inside the harbor. It's scarier this way. Turns out it was a magnificent strategy. I never thought it'd so fundamentally fuck her up. Harry, you made a conscious decision to relay that information to her. You could have kept it for yourself. Of course she did. Rich people have the best stories about all the interesting things they've done and seen, all the beautiful places they've been to. It's just sentimentalism. She can afford to be sentimental, and she can afford to lose as well. Against you? Oh, Harry, I'd like to think I used it for you. She's not insane. What did she tell you? No, she's not. She's a sentimental alcoholic. They all are. Never take a drop and you'll be 8 laps ahead of those upper-class winos. Just like old Mr. Clare here. Try it. You'll be a real super detective. Don't just say it, Harry. Do it. We gotta be more disciplined than they are, or we'll lose.
And you've already lost for so long.
What was always going to happen? We take the harbour and she fucks off to Ozon, uncorks a bottle of wine, calls her partners, and says they need to distance themselves from this nasty business before the big shit spinner splashes everyone. Only difference is the Union doesn't have to lose 2,000 men to machine gun fire. That it will, Harry, that it will. As to the bad taste, please, you're not a sommelier, you're a cop. You knew something. Something big. And you wanted to see what happens when you tell someone. So you told her. Anyone who's ever been close to power will tell you. Inside information is the sweetest thing in the world. It's better than money. It's better than pussy. Money only makes you special for some salesmen. Pussy only makes you special for yourself. Information makes you special for all mankind. It's the ticket to history. Don't beat yourself up, Harry. What you did was participate in history. When history calls, you have to pick up. You had no choice. None of us ever do. A hard disco cop like you, I knew you weren't one to resist temptation.
You know what, Detective? I am going to leave this out of my reports, and I suggest you leave it out of yours too.
Just look at the three of us. The three careless boyaderos. Good times, good times. Now we let bygones be bygones because there's work to do. For me and for you. I suppose there was a reason you came here, so let's have it. What can I help my best friend and comrade with today? Funny. That doesn't ring any bells, Harry.
Funny. She was trying to set up a narcotics operation in the old church on the coast.
Oh, that a cell. Yes, I do seem to remember sending a pretty young thing down there to liven up the place. Get some melodic music in there. Amphetamine lab? That sounds very immoral and debauched. Frankly, a health risk. But what do I know about kids these days? The music they listen to, the drugs they do while they listen to that music?
It sounds to me like you are trying to start an amphetamine lab in the district. And you're using some delinquents you found God knows where to set it up and run it for you.
Found God knows where? That cell is the daughter of Miko the Kebab. A man who once killed a guy with a kebab. I think a daughter of a man who killed a man with a kebab can handle running a little nightclub, don't you? Maybe it was Bogovir. Or Jakub. I think it might have been Conrad. A nightclub? Harry, I'm an old-fashioned guy. After work, I like to listen to some rock and roll music and have a non-alcoholic lager. Nightclubs don't interest me. But here I am, talking about myself, when you have much more important things going on. Tell me, Harry, how can I help you? My. She's quite the looker, Harry. You can't imagine how pleased I am the two of you are reunited. Tell me, was it difficult to convince the pigs to give it up? I knew you could handle it. I know my special policeman. Anyway, I'm glad you're all right and armed again, Harry. Now, what can Everard Clare do for you?
The Copper NATO is back. What do you want? What's that, Copper? You want us to help little old ladies now?
You're local law enforcement, aren't you? Helping troubled civilians should fall under your jurisdiction.
Yeah. We'll send someone out. Who is? Wait. It's the pigs, isn't it? God. Poor lady. Don't worry. We'll handle this. I think she got some family in Kuron or something. Bastards left her alone when she got sick. We've been getting complaints.
Hey, wasn't Everard's B team looking for her the other day? They said something about her, I don't know, finding something?
Yeah, I think you're right, Gene. She have something of yours, Big?
Whatever you do, do not admit to these punks you lost your gun. You will suffer if you do.
No? Well, whatever then, Copper.
No. They totally said what it was. What was it? Anyone remember?
I don't remember. I was fucking drunk.
Let me know if you figure it out back there. Now, anything else we can help you with? Auntie LaPlante, we always called her. Something LaPlante.
Marianne, amigo.
Be anything else you wanted to know? Was? Like before. Just an old lady. Her kids moved away years ago. Never come to visit. Never took her calls. She gets out every now and then. She did right by lots of us when we were kids. Always was a little off, but still.
Us kids? That must have been ages ago. She was better then. The children kept her together.
Get wanted to be a cop, you mean? Well, shit. I don't actually know. Anyone know why she started acting like a pig?
No fucking clue. It's gotta be the crazy. Who'd want to be a pig? No, I didn't. Because I'm not fucking stupid, Polizonte.
Yeah, Carl. That's some pretty fucking weird shit to say. The pigs level weird. But whatever gets you through the day. Dunno. She lives by the water. Shit washes up all the time on the beach.
Police paraphernalia doesn't just wash up on the coast, people. It's not like we dump it at night. She bought it, collected it.
Station 41. A man carries a crate of rusted, unused badges. You think these would net us something at the annual auction? A balding detective drags a comb, futilely across his head. Shit, who'd want those? Just dump them into the river.
No problem, old cop man. We take care of our mentally ill here in Martinez. Ain't that right, boys?
Sure enough, we're the real heroes on these streets.
Yeah. By friends, you mean his squad mates from Crenell.
Wouldn't want to beat up his grandma.
This is what happens if you take the law into your own hands. Other people start doing it too.
Let them come. The Hardy Boys are right fucking here.
You heard the man. Right here. We're armed. We got the whole district behind us. And Glenn. Glenn is fucking crazy.
Yeah. A well-oiled murder machine.
The fuck is that supposed to mean? Goddamn right it's nothing. This ain't a fucking terrarium. This is Martinez.
Terrarium? He's really trying to salvage something out of it.
So are the local gangs. The fucking Barmy Army.
Yeah. Where are they now, huh?
These people are trained military professionals with decades of combat experience. They are not a gang or a barmy army.
No, they're not. They're uncoordinated and drunk. We know more about them than you think. We got weapons of our own. We got Ister 50s, Zeelagers. Glenn's got a knock cannon at home. I guess we're gonna see, aren't we?
That was an unsure phrasing.
Right about what? That a 50 caliber bullet goes through shit? Yeah, I am. Big fucking surprise. They hire psycho scum, arm them to the teeth, and let them loose in the city. What do you think is gonna happen? What do you mean, okay? Goddamn right we do. We done it before. Ain't that right, fellas?
Fuck yeah, we have. Battle-hardened urban soldiers, man. We got the guns and the reserves.
Yeah, we got reserves.
This guy will be the first one to bail.
Yeah? What?
The bullet is still safely sealed away in a plastic bag. The bullet is still safely sealed away. A rifle, revolutionary period. Your bullet looks to be an old 4.46 millimeter from the surplus left over from the turn of the century. Probably an antique or a retrofitted antique. The 4.46 caliber was widely used with the Belmargrave rifle, a Revacholian manufacturer. The BM dominated the battlefields of the Insulindian theater of the anti-centennial revolution 50 years ago. No, but Zeliger, a major firearm manufacturer, ended up with a surplus after the war. So there are still a lot of these old military rifles floating around. Antiques enthusiasts, guerrilla fighters in distant countries, a few lucky jamrock bangers. You're looking for a well-preserved antique, most likely.
What are you thinking? Bullet? Okay. And? An antique. That makes sense. There can't be many breech-loading rifles floating around in Martinez or anywhere in Ravachol. I have to hand it to the monarchs. It's quite admirable that they took the advice of criminologists last century and banned the use of breech-loaders in peacetime. Some new RCM recruits get impatient with their muzzleloaders once they've trained with military-grade weapons, but they realize it's worth it in the end.
Prohibiting peacetime law enforcement to front-loaded rifles is a policy enforced by the Moralist International in all the nations of the Real Belt.
Imagine if everyone, cops, citizens, had access to firearms that could shoot multiple rounds without pausing to reload. After the first shot, the second, third, and so on come much easier. But back to the investigation. Doesn't seem that likely, but we'll check out all possible leads. Next step, finding the gun. It's
light vanishes inside the concrete slit. The structure goes deep under the earth. There's no echo and no answer.
No idea. Could be connected to one of the buildings around here. We might find her down somewhere. There's an old storm drain system beneath Martinez that's mostly collapsed. Revachel's sewage system has been built and rebuilt 4 or 5 times now. In conclusion, she could be under any building. I hope not.
Maybe it's just a storm drain for the sewer. Old door, worn by elements.
From here to the whirling, I can't see how. The church is in the way.
You rattle the handle a bit, then push on the door.
We don't get in there. Frankly, you're just going to have to accept the fact that you can't get in through every single door.
No. We've gotten into every door thus far. That's what we do.
Relax. No one's hiding in there. If we can't open it, others can't either. And
at least you can think about opening it. You see a once bright mural towering above you. The signage has peeled off over the years, but you can still make out Feld Electrical R&D, a slogan used to intertwine with the loops a long time ago. Now, only a shadow of peeled letters remains. Above the mural, a collapsed roof, broken windows set in walls that are cracking and will soon also fall, and the coastal breeze rustling and sighing in the remains of the edifice. Feld Electrical, you only know them as a small company that makes ink cartridges. Looks like they used to be big. There's something in the wind. Sometimes the only way to go forward is to fail first.
in there? She could. Or she could be in the identical room over there, or in that boat shack. In that church tower, maybe.
Why single out this one building? Even though you're sure you succeeded, all is quiet. There is no cold hand brushing against your forehead, no rustle in the reeds. The wind has died down. The ruin in front of you is silent as a tomb.
How do we? I was really hoping she'd be in the village. Okay. She's probably north of the village, and this place is a peninsula. We already scanned most of the outdoor areas on our wild cryptid hunt, so we have an understanding of the geography, at least. And then there's the church. We've already searched that and can rule it out. I know it doesn't feel like progress, but exclusion is a step too. Anyway, we do it the old-fashioned way, sector by sector. Go over the whole peninsula, ask the locals, enter the places where we can enter first, like we did in the village. Then, if we're desperate, we can look where we can't enter. Bunkers, storm drainage, this place. I'm sure it won't come to that.
Walk the coast, the old boardwalk, the reeds. You can always come back here and talk to the wind again. Look where it already got you. An adventure awaits. An adventure on the windswept urban coast. Buckle up and raise your collar. This search is going to be wet and cold. Suddenly, there's a sigh, carried on the molecules around you, moving, flowing from high pressure to low pressure, like that of a woman emptying her lungs. She wraps the collapsing stone box in front of you in her breath, flowing through it, in through the collapsed roof, flowing down a concrete staircase to the basement, sweeping away footprints in the dust on the stairs, and then the beach below the boardwalk, its winding tunnels, a whisper away.
She's down there.
Okay. Why? Right. How do we get in there? The doors were on the collapsed side of this building. They're gone, basically.
Finally, my time to shine.
Perhaps you can climb them. We are not climbing anything. I'm 43 years old, and I plan to live to see 70.
A rusty ladder leads to the rooftop. Some of the rungs are missing.
Yeah, that doesn't look good at all.
The distances between the remaining rungs are rather wide. You'd have to use the mounting brackets. However, they seem corroded and the peeling rust is razor sharp. In addition, the first rung is going to be tough to reach. It's what, 3 meters above the ground? And you're 180? Not to mention that the roof is collapsing and the wind gets pretty brutal up there. Dismounting from the ladder is going to be hard. Perhaps if you were to not climb the ladder. Instead, what if you were to do something more subtle? What if you were to reconceptualize climbing the ladder? Astral projection. Be open-minded about this.
Teleportation is not a thing. Okay, let's say teleportation is a thing. Wouldn't you need some kind of scientific apparatus to create a teleportation field? You can't just do it without apparatus. Oh yes, it could hurt. A lot.
He is restraining himself from using a parental tone with you right now. On second thought, maybe teleportation isn't a thing. Because you're just standing there squeezing your buttocks and nothing is happening.
You're not. Please, don't try to climb the building. We'll get in another way.